Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome everyone to ABWCI Dialogue. We bring in new celebrity, president, stakeholders from across the world to speak to you. We are ABWCI. ABWCI is a virtual global chamber of commerce for women working towards social economic empowerment of women entrepreneurs. You'll always say why we are focusing on women only, because if we can create more women as wealth creators, we will change the world how it looks like today. Our mission is to establish a collaborative ecosystem to engage, network, identify, and leverage market opportunities globally. Our vision is to nurture and provide an enabling environment for women in business to build a sustainable and better future. As of today, ABWCI is operating in 22 countries and we have database in 40 countries. We are, by 2024 December, we will be in 196 countries worldwide and we will be the largest network and membership organization. Why ABWCI Dialogue? Why, we have created this? We have created this as a chat series to create a productive space that invites key stakeholders of the ecosystem to join and listen to women in business and industry experts talking about their ideas, journeys, experience, and challenges. ABWCI recognizes 4 big challenges faced by women, such as access to market, access to finance, access to technology, access to entrepreneurial ecosystem. And that's why we have created this platform, which is becoming very, very important worldwide. The conversation aims to provide an environment addressing these challenges to get deep insight into our speakers' entrepreneurial journey and their key takeaways. Our guest today, I want to welcome Ayodhya ji, and with so much introduction, I'm so feeling blessed today that we have a celebrity from Nigeria, a restaurant owner, a catering business, and more so a leader who has selflessly given so much to our young leaders as such. She's a founder and CEO of No Leftover, a full-scale catering outfit which was started with a very small capital and today operates in Nigeria. And also I'm very, very happy to acknowledge that this chain is now started in the US. Ayodhya ji was the first woman, who had joined 10,000 Women Initiative sponsored by Goldman Sachs. And she's also the convener of Grace Ladies International Business Fellowship, an initiative set up to educate, empower, inspire, and support women in business. I'm very happy today to host Ayodhya ji today on this episode of ABWCI. So welcome to the show, and I'm very happy that you are here. We will be talking about your journey, your life, how you started, and how you become so prominent leader in Nigeria, and also you're inspiring women worldwide. So my first question to you is, when you were growing up, in your younger days, what was your feeling? Did you know that you'll become so famous and you'll become such a big businesswoman as such? So we'll start from there, and then we will have a conversation. You can talk about your journey, your kids, your family, how you balance your life, and it will be great too, because this conversation is very important, and this conversation will also help our millions of women worldwide to see how they will be inspired by your leadership. So over to you, Ayodhya ji.
Thank you so much, Parul, for having me. I am super excited to be here. I know that there's been a lot of attempts to get me here earlier, but I'm happy that I'm here at last. Better late than ever. So I really do want to thank you. I want to thank you for this platform. I want to thank everybody who is involved in ABWCI. Thank you for all the encouragements. Thank you for all the hard work, because it's a lot of work. And for you, Parul, honestly, you're the man amongst all the women. Thank you. I mean, your commitment to this is simply amazing. Thank you so much. And
Thank you.
for
Thank you
anybody who,
so much. Thank you so much. I'm inspired by you all, and that's why it gives me so much of energy to really fight on to see how I want to change each and every women in terms of their lives, their, how things are. And I always feel, you all should get more money. If you have more money, you will change this world in a better, in a way things are, and that's the need, Ayodhya. Yeah.
absolutely, Parul, absolutely. Yeah, and I also want to say thank you to everybody that's joining. Okay, let me dive right into talking about myself. So here I am. If anybody had told me I would be holding
I think
I don't think so far, but it's been a journey as an entrepreneur. It's been a 15-year journey. But of course, life didn't start at that point. Life started 54 years ago for me. And I'm so grateful for my family. I come from a very, very committed family, close-knit family. My parents gave my siblings and I all they could afford. But we had very special care. Education was on top of my father's priority list. My mother was a homemaker to the core. She dedicated her whole life to taking care of her husband and her children. And that really gave me a very, very strong, spiritual foundation, especially moral foundation too. The way I saw my parents model family, helped a great deal to what I have become today. But growing up for me came with a lot of challenges. I found myself in situations that I was helpless over, you know, um, had experiences of abuse, experiences of bullying. It's really quite a few nasty experiences that could have benched me and could have just made me give up on life. But thank God, I mean, the spiritual part of my life plays a very, very significant role in my growing up and where I have come today. And so growing up and having to go through school was a bit challenging, but at the end of the day, I came to myself in the sense that, you know, at the point when it appeared as if failure was the pattern, I just God just helped me to, navigate my way out of the murky waters of failure. And even though I wasn't happy with where I found myself, even when I realized that I could actually have had a better life, I still was grateful that I didn't, even though I didn't have it all, I was alive and my life was beginning to take shape. And so I went to school, studied as a secretary, and I worked as a secretary for 20 years. My 20th year was when I was 39 and I was just looking at 40 right ahead of me. And suddenly I really became very dissatisfied with having worked as a secretary. I was married at that time, very happily married. My husband is an amazing man. And every time I get a chance to speak, I always acknowledge the support of my husband. Honestly, I know that I probably would not have come this far if I wasn't married to him, because he continues to cheer me on. And so married, I have, at that time also, I had my children. They were, and thankfully to God, they're still alive and well. There are two of them. And so I just became dissatisfied with where I was. I just felt that I could do more. Yes, it appeared that I had been benched. It appeared that I was at the bottom of the rung, that, I hadn't explored my full potentials. And it didn't appear as if I had so much to fall back on at that time. But, the dissatisfaction outweighed the fears I felt that I didn't have enough to step out with. I was completely dissatisfied. And I began to hear of stories of women who, even though they were not so educated, even though they didn't have so much potential, still braved all odds and stepped out. and they were able to make something tangible out of their lives. So it was the stories of such women that gave me the audacity to step out of employment when I did. I really didn't have a concrete plan, but I just was like, well, I still have a life. So let me just, why stay here when the world is so ahead of me, And like I said, my husband was very in support of it. So that also changed my courage. And then one thing led to the other. I found myself in a situation where there was hunger in the family, there was no food, and I just needed to provide a meal. I needed to provide a meal for the family. And I thought at that time, what could I do? I mean, I looked at the resources at my disposal, and I just felt, what can I do that would, with this money, with this resource I had in my hands, that will make me provide a meal that could last us for a few days? And I thought of our bean, some of our bean products, and I made what we call moi moi in Nigeria. It's what you call bean pudding, and I just made it for the family that day. And wanting to survive that, and sister who tasted the meal, liked it, and said she was ready to pay me to make for her. That was how No Leftovers started 15 years ago. I made a meal for my sister, the same meal for my sister-in-law the following day, and her friend tasted it and liked it and asked that she was ready to pay me for that same meal. And I was like, wow, really? So I gave some people some free wraps because we make them in, banana, not in banana-like leaves.
Very inspiring, because the thing is, you just tried, and that was the time when people appreciated. I think that is important, because somebody gave you that kind of feedback that it is good, and you felt that this is really nice to maybe try, and that was, I think, the time when you started the whole thinking of this entire business of catering. So how, if you look at the Nigeria, from perspective of a country, when you started, too much in terms of licensing, and how did you go about doing this?
So, like I said, I started very small. So the issue of licensing and everything hadn't come in at that time, but I kept pushing. And the more I pushed, into entrepreneurship, I found out that I couldn't just continue to run it as a business in my kitchen. And so I realized that if I needed to take it out of my kitchen, I needed to have standards. And so that's where all of that began to come in, for you to be ready to put yourself in the face of people. You need to ensure that you have certifications, you have standards, you have, basic basic guidelines to run that particular business, are taken into consideration. So, but Nigeria, when I started, entrepreneurship was beginning to be the thing in Nigeria. Initially, I mean, in the past, it was all about, white collar jobs, people leaving school to get jobs and all of that. But, the country had gone through different seasons, and people were beginning to see that, look, there are opportunities that we could explore. So we already began, at that time, we had role models who had began businesses, and were already sharing their stories. And so it was out of those inspiring stories that I began to, sum up courage to, get things done properly. Because when I was doing things, even though, of course, it was done hygienically and all of that, but, going full-blown commercial was a different ball game. So I was very privileged to attend a business school sponsored by Goldman Sachs in the US. They came up with an initiative called the 10,000 Women Program, and this afforded me the opportunity to really know how business should be structured. So that's where all of that began to come into place. I had to ensure that I became aware of the different guidelines that had to do with catering, even though initially when I started, it wasn't all about catering, it was just about buying and selling, but then I had to delve into catering and, being a part of that community really did help me to ensure that my I's were dotted and my T's were crossed.
Yeah, and listening to you also, it's so good because you have explained the challenges, the opportunities, and and I've been talking to you. I think this is needed to see that a happy family is also very important when you are doing your internship, your entrepreneurship and ventures like what you started as such, and your husband, your partner really helped you in the entire thinking of it and all that. I think that's the whole mentorship, or this is the support you need when you're starting from the perspective, and that's really important because sometimes you need that help and support. It's not only the support we need financially, but we also need a backstopping support, and that's what ABWCI is all about. Because we are providing that kind of support to the community of women leaders and women entrepreneurs to see how they can club each other, how they can work together, how they can bring this entire empathy, sympathy kind of a thing together, which will be helpful for making women more successful wealth creators as such. So my question now also to see, because you have also been working a lot on this group called Grace Ladies, how has been, were you a part of the founding team, or you have been there? Can you talk about that?
Okay, so Parul, before we came on air, we had some, conversations around how you balance your life. And so when I started my business, as a business that attracts women, especially, I began to see that a lot of women will come to me to ask me questions on how I started and all of that. And during the different conversations we had, I found out that they had challenges that were so simple to overcome. If only they had a community of women they could share their issues with, and they could rub minds with. So that was how I came about starting Grace Ladies. I just said, okay, instead of us all coming together and just complaining and, talking about our problems, why don't we just have a community that is well structured, so that we can involve other women who are experienced, or other women who are also still going through the different learning stages of their lives, where we can come together and begin to talk about things and begin to find solutions to the different challenges that we have. And so that's how Grace Ladies International Business Fellowship started. So in all my journey, I keep talking about the spiritual beats of my life. So it's all infused into this fellowship. So it's a fellowship that I'm the founder of, and this year, then we're 13 years now. So I founded Grace Ladies 13 years ago, and so we're a group of well over 300 women right now, and we run different types of businesses, and we have women who have amazing stories, women who have amazing strengths, women who have been able to build businesses from scratch, who come. So we gather every time to talk about our businesses and to talk about balance, because for us, balance is important, especially as women. We don't only run businesses, we're mothers, we're wives, we have different lives. So we keep encouraging ourselves and talking about how we can continue to build without breaking down.
No, very good, because this is really important. Then this is the most important part of the conversation today, that you need a community, and a lot of people lack this this thinking that how they cooperate and bring this community together as such. And that's why I see so many young women leaders and your entrepreneurs call you ma. That's the whole thing. Where I see that on a WhatsApp group, if you put up message, they say yes ma, yes ma, yes ma. I think it's a feeling that they feel so much for you, because not only you're elder to them, but there is some kind of connection, there is some kind of bonding, there is some kind of cooperation as such. So this is good to understand, and why I'm putting all this is just for our audience to know that there is a ma, which is in Nigeria, to follow in for women entrepreneurs, and people can write to you and people can talk to you, and you are available to help through your journey, to help unbundle the whole aspect of saying that this is all gone, I've gone through all this. So I think don't be scared and just go on, and that's the spirit you are with. So all that. Now coming to your ecosystem, now you spoke about Grace, you spoke about your organization. Do you see that the ecosystem which you have created in a small way, do you think that Nigeria has an ecosystem for women entrepreneurs?
So it's amazing that there's so much focus on female entrepreneurs, really globally, but especially in Africa, and very, very much especially in Nigeria. I'm really happy to be a part of the season now and to be a part of this ecosystem, because you have a lot of organizations in Nigeria that focus on women development. And to some point, we now begin to get worried about who's paying attention to the men folk? We're worried about that. But the truth of the matter is that we have different communities in Nigeria where attention is focused on the women to help them develop, and not just develop in business. I mean, just like Grace Ladies is all about, it's a holistic thing, because you recognize the fact that these women are also nation builders. We are part of nation building as it is, but even much more than that, we take care of the cradle. We take care of leaders from the cradle. And so it's important. I mean, when society fails, that there's a failure in the family. And when you look at the family failing, the first person you pay attention to is the woman, because the woman is the one that took care of that child. And so you're asking her what investments have you made in that child, even though, of course, the man is involved. So yes, there's that very thriving ecosystem of support in Nigeria for women, and women are really taking advantage of it, even though there's still a long way to go.
No, good to know, because this, when I speak about the ecosystem, a lot of country presidents say that the ecosystem is not available. Like, for example, I spoke to our president of Nepal. She said that it was not there as such. So from that perspective, this is good. So those are things which I wanted to understand from your perspective, that these are. But when you talk about the whole perspective of the ecosystem in the region, do you see that that kind of ecosystem is available?
So you see, the region is a different ballgame altogether.
Yeah.
So you find out that in different countries, in different African countries, but I can't say so much about other African countries. So let me focus on Nigeria. So you find a lot of women doing a lot of things. You go on social media, the women are all out there marketing their businesses, talking about their businesses. Women are doing pockets of things, but you find out that we're still very, very much at the micro level. Very, very much at the micro level. And that is not the best. It's a good place to start, but you find out that if we do not go beyond that, it now cannot impact the whole society. It can't impact the whole country. Talk less about the region. And I think from the little I've read about what's happening in a few other countries, I feel I know a bit about Ghana, even though I feel that they are more infrastructurally stronger than we are, but it's really the same thing. Women are doing pockets of things, and now we need to have stronger infrastructure to help us to take it to the next level, so that we can really come together and have something more sustainable. So we're building our different, what we call little empires, but it hasn't gotten to a sustainable level. So we have a few women who have really, really blazed the trail. They're building huge businesses, and they are employing, they've become big employers of labor. Their businesses have grown, they've crossed boundaries, they've even crossed African boundaries and all of that. But there's still a few for it to have a significant effect and impact on the globe, on the country's economy, or on the continent of Africa's economy. So, that's where, we're going to have to start to talk about leadership, because there's just a limit. There's just a limit to what we can do as, as a small, medium business owners.
So I was just saying that there's so much to learn and there is so much to do in Nigeria that I feel that I should visit you in Nigeria, because there are groups to be met. There are, the government and everyone, which is really needed at that point in time. So I think really very excited to learn all this from you from that perspective. I have one more question, which is on the whole, again, the trade and the business. And do you think that, there is trade happening between various countries in Africa, which are neighboring countries, or do you feel there is a lot to do, or there is a lot to learn from, various countries which are doing more as cross-border, business?
Yeah, great question. Great question, Parul. I was just doing a study.
Yeah.
I was doing a study about some products that are produced, some raw materials that you get from Africa. And I came across vanilla. Vanilla is so there's this country, there's an African country, Madagascar. Madagascar produces 80% of the vanilla needs around the world. They get it from Madagascar. Unfortunately, and surprisingly and shockingly too, Madagascar is still one of the poorest countries in the world. So when you talk of vanilla ends up in the confectionery industry around the world. Yes. It ends up in the perfumery industry around the world. But you find that how come they produce 80% of vanilla produce needed around the world? But you know what they do? And sadly, this is really the colonial pattern that still persists in Africa. Colonialism started because the colonials, the Western world came into Nigeria to exploit. They came to exploit the natural resources and the human resources in Africa for the betterment and the growth of their countries. And sadly, this still persists. And so you find a pattern that is still perpetuating the colonial mindset, the colonial mindset of production, of consumption and distribution. So that is still what persists in a lot of African countries. Nigeria is not exempted from this. You can see this in our oil industry. You can see this in cocoa, likewise in other African countries. So what happens is that every infrastructure we have is designed to export our raw materials to the closest exit ports. And so what happens is that these countries to which we export them to add value. They add value to these producers, so they turn vanilla into perfume, different types of perfumes that we use, highbrow perfumes, and the same thing with our cocoa. Our cocoa is turned into delicious chocolate that we can't even afford. And then they bring them back into our countries and we end up spending even much more. So this is the colonial pattern that still persists. And unfortunately,
that's a big issue, because the thing is that, how if this is being made here and, we can use this kind of expertise, the countries can export and become rich. And that's what, there can, because this validation can also be done internally, not externally. And then bringing and importing the same thing, then, it adds so much cost. Yeah.
True, Parul. Africa represents 17% of the global population, but we only contribute 2% to global manufacturing. Can you beat that? No, and we only have a share of 3% of global trade, all because of this pattern. It's a pity that this pattern still persists. It still persists. And so it becomes urgent for us to reverse this. And one of the ways we can reverse this is where we build infrastructures, not just infrastructures, inter-border infrastructures, with Africa. Unfortunately, Africa delights in trading with the developed world, with the Western economy.
Yes.
We don't effectively trade with ourselves. If we can effectively trade with ourselves, which of course will mean that our production will go higher, that we will also be able to support ourselves in developing our different products to the point where we now are able to export finished products to the world. And then, of course, our GDP will increase. Do you understand? So regardless of the pockets of innovations that we're putting into place as women in business, if we do not have leaders who have this mindset, it will still be us going round and round in circles and end us up in frustration. And so that's why where I'm going is that we're encouraging women who have this mindset to be part of politics. I mean, this is going into politics. I know, for example, look at the G20. I'm so happy. I mean, I'm sure that you're so excited about that. The presidency of the G20 has come to your doorstep.
Yes.
So we're encouraging our women to be involved in politics, to be involved in leadership. We are seeing ourselves thriving in entrepreneurship. But the truth is that for as long as we stay there, there is a limit to which we can grow. There is a limit to which Africa can become the giants that we truly are. There's a limit to which development can be effective and effectual in Africa.
No, very good. I think this is a thought process which we need, and we need effective leaders like you who can not only deliver, but can also create this kind of a thinking. So it promotes the whole competitiveness and also improves the whole value addition as such. So I think these are good things to understand and see if a group like ABWCI can work on these kind of aspects to bring that kind of technical assistance, technology transfer, and many other aspects would be very, very helpful for making women more progressive and wealthy. So I think we are in the right phase as such from that perspective. Now going to the whole the final question, and then we'll be talking about what you want to talk about. So my thinking is, what do you think that what should be the advice to young entrepreneurs from entrepreneurs who are so successful, and you are a celebrity in Nigeria? What's the advice you want to give to them?
Yeah, thank you, Parul. Sadly, just as I've spoken about the colonial pattern that we see in trade, it's happening even with our resources, human resources. There's a brain drain going on in Africa, especially in Nigeria now. Our young people are leaving the country. I mean, they're being attracted. I mean, jobs are offered them in developed countries, and there's a drain. I mean, you look for your neighbor. Your neighbor is gone. Where's my neighbor? My neighbor has gone to the US. Where's my neighbor? My neighbor has gone to the UK. All because nobody wants to really. And the truth is, it's been very, very torturous. That's the truth. I mean, with our young people doing all they can and being frustrated by different government policies, by leaders who are very selfish, who are very self-centered and all of that. So it's really frustrating. And so they're venting out their frustration by leaving the country, and that's why, for me, it's important for our young people to get into leadership. If we all leave, I mean, there'll be nothing to hold, there'll be nothing. I mean, wherever you go, you're still a second-class citizen. And so, yes, we know you earn more. Yes, there are better standards of living and all of that. But you can still, I encourage young people that you can still make it here. Continue to contribute your quota. I mean, in India, for example, I know that there was a season in India when things were really rough. And it's not as if you're completely out of the woods. There's still areas of struggle. Yeah, but we know that there's a lot of advancement. I mean, coming to India a few months ago, I was excited to network with other female entrepreneurs, listening to their stories. Remember, and thank you, Peru. That was such a priceless opportunity that ABWCI gave me. Remember, we went on.
And what you're saying is making so much sense. When the political situation is difficult, people want to leave. And when the countries are progressing, the countries are mature, the country have the whole democratic policies, and you have really compared it very well with India, because in India, a lot of young people want to make their careers and they're doing entrepreneurship only because, we have come to a level where there is opportunity for everyone. So it's well said from that perspective. And I hope, countries like Nigeria and your neighbors and all progress well so that we don't have the dearth of talent and we progress as a world into a better place as such. And that's my thinking as such. I will give back to you your final words and then, we will close. Anything you want to talk about?
Wow, I can't even believe time has gone. It's like we should just go on and on and on. Well, as I was saying, the concept when you asked that question, is just to continue to encourage our young people. Don't give up. There's so much, and then we need to continue to, build infrastructure and see how we can add value to our different local contents. Yeah, we need to add value as we continue to network with people around the world. Let's see how we can now bring it back here to add value to what we're doing and see how we can export the finished product. Let's not be all about exporting raw materials and all of that, exporting the finished product to different countries so that, yes, we're a brand to reckon with. And finally, I love what ABWCI is doing, building this ecosystem of support, ecosystem of a network of women globally. And so it's important that we take advantage of these opportunities. A lot of people are part of this type of organization and are not leveraging. It's important to leverage on opportunities that are given, even in our local communities. And I know that a lot of ABWCI Nigeria members are here. We need to continue to keep these conversations going. I'm happy that women have left the bus stop of competition. We have now gotten into the place of collaboration. And so more emphasis needs to be placed on this. And then, yes, with continuous hard work, determination, and faith, yeah, we will get there. We will get there.
Thank you so much, Diji. I think your words are, I can say it's worth millions and billions, really, if that's the word. And, so inspiring. You spoke about the individual problems, the problems of entrepreneurship, the problems to become an entrepreneur, the struggle people have, the brain drain and all that. You spoke so well on various aspects as such. But also I want to talk to, the audience, and I want to say that this dialogue was live, but it will be available for you to watch on YouTube. You can visit our website, www.abwci.org. And I will really request you to leave your comments and talk about it. Join us and make a big community, because we feel the ecosystem we can create together. And there is, governments are important. Governments are doing their bit, but organizations like ABWCI is really needed to create that kind of, a process or a dialogue system or the whole platform, which would be helpful for the generations to come as such. We are all working together with our presidents across the world, with Ayodhya and many presidents in various countries, and trying to make a difference in women's life. Join us, help us, spread a word, and we will be delighted to have you as a member. Membership is free. It's an ecosystem which we are creating, and that would be helpful for us. And enjoy the benefit which we are giving. We are helping you to get to the events, a lot of material you can read and all that. So I think you can visit and see how we have built this community. Help us and also spread a word. And I want to thank our guest speaker today, our celebrity speaker, President of Nigeria, ABWCI. Thank you, Ayodhya, for coming in and talking with your heart. And I am very, very happy to see that we have president like you in Nigeria, which is really ambassador for all of us. So thank you so much. And we will be available again with new celebrity, new face, with the new dialogue, and talking about the problems, the strengths of the organization, and how we are taking it forward. So thank you so much, Ayodhya, for joining it. And also thank you everyone who has joined us, and we'll be very, very happy to, have your comments. So thank you, and have a great evening, afternoon, morning. Thank you.
Thank you.